I remember standing there, utterly floored, a chill running through me that had nothing to do with the temperature. My stepson, Tyler, stood there with a smirk, watching his mother, Brenda, threaten to call Child Protective Services on me. And then he said it, with such casual cruelty, "I'll lie to them and say you hit me or something. They'll believe me over you." It wasn't just dysfunction anymore. This was abuse. That moment, that icy threat, it was a snap. Something deep inside me just broke. I'd spent so long trying to be patient, trying to be compassionate, trying to be a father figure and a husband, and this was the thanks I got. This was the dark place I had finally arrived at. To even begin to understand how I found myself in such an impossible situation, I have to go back just a little. Not long before, I had finally bought my dream car. It had been years in the making, a shiny, beautiful machine that represented so much more than just transportation. It was a tangible symbol of all the hard work, the sacrifices, the years I'd spent putting everyone else first. When I finally parked it in my driveway, I felt a sense of pride I hadn't experienced in a very long time. But Tyler, he just looked at it and made a face, telling me it looked too young for me. Then he started with the digs, implying I was an old guy trying to act cool. The real shock came when he just flat out demanded it. "Why don't you just give the car to me?" he asked, as if it was already his by right. I tried to explain that if he wanted a car, he needed to work for it, save up, show some responsibility. I even offered to help with the rest, but he just shrugged. "Why would I get a job when it's easier to just get a car from you for free?" The sheer entitlement in his voice, the complete lack of shame, it was breathtaking. I hoped, maybe foolishly, that Brenda would see it, that she'd understand what that car meant to me, not just as a vehicle, but as a monument to resilience. Instead, she sided with him. "If you don't want to give this car to Tyler," she said, looking me dead in the eye, "then you should have bought something cheaper. This is a waste of money." A punch to the chest. My years of sacrifice, my personal milestone, reduced to a waste because it wasn't immediately benefiting her son. Then came the ultimate threat: "If you won't give my son your car, I'll just take your card and buy him the same one." And she meant it. Just last night, I caught Tyler sneaking into my private study, rifling through my wallet, trying to steal my card. It wasn't the first time. I'd started hiding my cards because he'd used them before on inappropriate sites. When I confronted him, he screamed at me for not letting him use my money. He called for Brenda, and she rushed in, immediately defending him. "He only had to do that because you never give him your card freely," she accused, then tried to dismiss his actions as what any boy would do at his age. She even said I was invading his privacy by checking what he did with my own money. I tried to calmly explain that he needed discipline, consequences, not just handouts. That's when she lost it, shouting that I had no right to talk about her son like that, that I was the problem, too harsh, too controlling. It was in that moment, seeing their twisted logic, that the realization truly hit me: I was trapped. But how had it come to this? It wasn't always like this. When I first met Brenda, after my first wife, Clara, had passed away from cancer, I was in such a dark place. Clara and I had built a life together, faced devastating challenges, and every penny, every ounce of strength, went into trying to save her. Losing her shattered me. Brenda came into my life when I was vulnerable, grieving, and she offered comfort. She listened as I talked about Clara, about the pain. I saw a chance for a new family, a chance at happiness. She was a single mother to Tyler, and he seemed like a good kid then. We got married, and that's when the switch flipped. Suddenly, it was all about appearances. Lavish vacations to places like Miami and Seattle, 4 or 5 times a year, bragging to her friends about my money, her new purchases. It was exhausting. I was working constantly, even on these trips, just to maintain the lifestyle she demanded, and she'd accuse me of not being present. Then there was the money. I'd always supported my parents, who sacrificed everything for me. Brenda fought me on it, saying they didn't need my money. When I refused to back down, she demanded I start supporting her parents too. Soon, her whole family was calling, making their case. I was pressured, out of guilt, into becoming financially responsible for them too. Tyler, who had once been a kind-hearted boy, changed too. The warmth disappeared, replaced by an attitude of pure entitlement. It was always the latest Xbox, the newest gadgets. If I said no, he'd throw a tantrum and Brenda would step in, not to calm him, but to escalate, telling me he deserved it because his father abandoned him. As if I was supposed to make up for someone else's failures by constantly opening my wallet. I felt less like a father figure and more like an ATM. That chilling threat from Tyler, reinforced by Brenda's willingness to defend it, was the breaking point. I realized I couldn't stay. This wasn't a marriage, it was a cage. I immediately started planning. I spoke to lawyers. My prenup, thankfully, was ironclad. I protected myself after Clara's passing, never imagining I'd need it this way, but I was grateful for my past self's foresight. I spent 2 weeks reorganizing assets, canceling shared cards, securing documents. I knew I couldn't confront them inside the house. They'd scream, they'd escalate, they'd make good on their threats. Today, Brenda took Tyler to her cousin's for lunch. She asked me to come along, pretending everything was normal. I knew why. Her family had a long history of asking for money at these family lunches. I made a polite excuse and stayed home. As soon as they left, I went to work. I quietly packed some of their belongings and left them on the porch. The divorce papers went with them. No more conversations. No more emotional traps. When they returned and saw their things outside, the storm began. Brenda started screaming. Tyler banged on the door, but I'd already changed the locks. I stood behind the reinforced door, calm, and said the words I'd rehearsed. I'm done. I am leaving you. Take your things. Take the divorce papers and leave. You and your pathetic son are no longer welcome on my property. They cursed me, yelled things I can't even repeat. Brenda tried crying, begging me to talk, saying I was unreasonable, that I didn't care. Tyler, behind her, spewed obscenities like an angry child whose favorite toy had been taken away. I told them if they didn't leave my property, I'd call the police. And that's when reality finally sank in. They picked up their bags, stunned, defeated, and walked away. Now, it's quiet. The house is peaceful. I feel safe. I feel free. What would you have done if you were in my shoes?